How do you actually manage operational excellence, continuous improvement within an organization with factories and the like? Let's talk about that driving system. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And I wanted to discuss with you something that I've been working on for a bit, testing already a little bit in factories, and will be developing more with very direct factory influence. But, I can also share it with you already because it is based on my previous model, the infinite loop, that I have been testing quite extensively already. So I'm sure it works to refine, and I wanted to share it with you. But also, since it is, relatively new, at least it's new in how I share it with you, I'm very open to getting some feedback, to having you tell me, preferably in the comments, but do write me a mail or just call me, on how does this sync with your thinking about operational excellence. Is it even more useful than the already very useful infinite loop, or am I just wasting my time? Maybe also. Anyway, without going too deeply into that, what is the concept? The concept is the cycles of excellence, and as I said, it is a system, a framework that is very close to the infinite loop I had been using quite a lot. We also see the free circles, which is one of the reasons why sort of my infinite loop was not a nice infinity sign, because you really need that third circle, that cycle of strategy, that cycle of visioning. But this is how you tie together all of the operational management activities and your operational excellence activities. And that is important to do. And it's also very important to understand that one factory has one set of the three cycles of excellence. So there is no cycle of safety excellence, a cycle of productivity excellence, and a cycle of quality excellence. No, a factory has only one. Now, you can say each department in that factory can sort of have their own again, because it is a distinct management unit. Details, get into that, but again, that one operation has only one. So that's important to know. One, and all of your improvement efforts, all of your pillars, if you go for more of a TPM approach, all of your management initiatives all need to build that one management system. So what are those cycles? You sort of know them from me already. When we have what we do, right? So this is basically, these are our standard practices. These are our results, our performance. These are our 4Ms, all of the machine conditions, the parameters, the skills and competences that we put into our process to get out our results. So basically, this is just how we run everything. From that, we want to make sure that we are reaching that performance, that we control the prerequisites, the input parameters, but also that we control the output, which is our performance levels. So we get a control cycle. And in the control cycle, what we do is we take our current performance levels, we take our current standards, and we just make sure that we keep them at those levels. And for that, we have a number of systems. We make sure that our standards are very clear and that we have trained them out. So that basically ensures that we have skills and competency management in place. Then we go and check that we really do those prerequisites, those standards, the standard ways of working. Process control, process confirmation, layered process audit, gamma walks, however you want to call them. Here is where we control that we do the processes as is our standard. And then, of course, we expect a certain performance level. So here we have performance control, also known as the KPI meeting, the daily meeting, the huddles, the performance control system. So those are all in there. And especially in those last two, maybe already in the first one, especially in the process control and the performance control, we can spot deviations from that standard. Right? So we expect certain standard inputs, we expect certain standardized already performance outputs. If we see a deviation, we go and problem solve. Right? We take the deviations, we find the root cause, and we eliminate the root cause. And always in the control cycle, we do sort of mini Kaizen thinking, just always try to make it a bit better, right? Even when things are not going wrong, even when we don't really see problems, do we have a way to make our standards easier? Can we, based on all the things we learned, just pick up on some of our current work standards and make them more stable, make them easier to use, make them easier to learn, easier to check. Just go through that, and with that you stabilize your system. So that the control cycle. Now at some point you also are going to say, Tom, I want to improve as well. Indeed, we want to get to higher performance levels. See, the control cycle, if you do a control cycle in a organization where basically you didn't have good control yet, performance levels will increase, but that is because you don't have all of the bad days. You get out a lot of problems, but we're not really lifting the level of our outputs. That is what we do in the improve cycle. And in the improve cycle too, we have a number of steps again. Let's right into the control a little bit, not a problem. The improve cycle. Now, if you want to use the make, please put it in here, not a problem. Basically, your organization's improvement methodology goes in here. That, by the way, is a bit of a side note. This is what I do for organizations, right? One of my main services is that I can come to your organization and help your factory or global continuous improvement, operational excellence, lean teams to form this and make it suitable to your specific organization and deploy it in your factories. Now, if in that process, and very often it is a yes, or at least it's a yes on certain parts, you already have systems in place, I adapt, right? So this framework is adaptable. I'm teaching you my base standards, but that doesn't mean you have to throw your things overboard. I've got another video on that. Don't just throw your systems overboard. Use it, but get to this framework. See how it fits. Anyway, the MAIC can be used here, right? Where you say, let's define what the problem or the target is, then let's measure, analyze what we really see currently, make improvements, and then control. So validate, sustain those improvements. I go for a slightly different option for this, and that is to first confirm, because I assume you have decided on improvements beforehand. We'll get to that in a bit. Confirm that it's still, really a feasible improvement project. But that is sort of the same as defining what your bigger problem, your frequent problem, or your improvement target, what it is, right? Then you do go into just measuring what is happening right now, see really what the process is doing, design your improvement, implement your improvement, validate it as well, and then make very clear work standards that all feed back into our one operational system. We get back to, this is where the real work for your operations happens. We check what's happening, what it does, how can we improve it. Then if we know that, we make very clear standards that feed into here. All gets back to, we have a standard set of how do we work and what does that bring us. And then the last one, I changed the name slightly from vision into strategy. That is one very specific thing I would like your advice on as well. Which of the two jives more with you? I thought strategy is what it's really about, right? Strategic planning, strategy deployment is the actual meat. It comes from a vision, but the vision is in there. It's just not it. And then what we get here is a system of basically strategic planning, strategy deployment, but also before you do, and you know this from strategic planning and my videos on that, you need to gather info. But this whole cycle is about strategy. So what do we do in the strategy cycle? Well, first of all, we are really going to check how we performed. And so we're going to check our performance. We're going to check our systems. This is very similar to those phases in the control. Okay, maybe they are switched because generally when we do a management review, we start with the actual performance. Did we meet the KPIs? Did we meet the volumes? Things like that. But we also really want to check, did we have systems that work? How happy are we with our management systems? And then after that, you go into looking for opportunities. And you do that by benchmarking, internal and external. So do we see ideas from somewhere else? And when we have a review of our performance, a review of our systems, and a review of what is around us, then we distill that. We make opportunities out of it. So how can we see, is there an improvement opportunity? And I can go into each of the steps by itself, but this is sort of where we get almost a brainstorm planning. It is quite a bit more, because I do want, if you put an improvement there, a potential improvement, that you say what you're going to do, what it's going to give us, how many resources, people, time, stuff like that you need. But that's what we do here. Then when we move to sort of the more planning it, so more putting the strategy into the organization, we go to the top half of this cycle, where we check sort of what is the main vision. The vision is not in this thing. I sort of assume, well, it's not true. I don't assume you have a vision, but for a factory that is part of a larger corporate, the larger corporate has to do this as well, but at a larger scale. So for a factory within a corporate, you have this already more or less in place, that there is some vision, although it is definitely a management task to have that in place. But you take your vision and you distill from the opportunities. And where do we want to go? What is our more recent future state? Right? What are our objectives? You set your objectives, but then you also deploy those objectives into the rest of the organization. You get feedback. There's quite a bit of catchball going on there. Make sure that you make very practical. This is the smaller objective. This is which projects we want which part of the organization to do. From that, you get a plan of improvements. And the plan here has a very important part in it. And that is, it comes back to these two cycles later. Most of your KPIs, and even also most of your systems, right? So most of the standards you work with, you want to keep at their current level. Just maintain it. And only a few of them are going to be the focus of your improvement activities. If you are going to say, I want all of the KPIs to improve a little bit, you're going to lose focus. You're going to drive your organization crazy. So here we plan which standards, both the input and the performance standards, we target for improving. And of course, we use which ideas did we have, we use which ones are important. It all feeds into that. And then from that, we also get a set of KPIs. Basically, when you know what your current performance level is, when you are going to make a step change through an improvement, then you also know when the output KPI should follow. So by that system, if you follow it all through, you can deploy your strategy, plan your strategy into your organization. And with that, make sure that you don't just put one KPI somewhere. Now, if you plan improvement at specific points in the year, put your KPI improvements there as well, and give a full set of realistic but challenging KPIs. So there you have it. We have the 3 management systems that you need to work on good performance standards, the 3 cycles of excellence. And maybe you have seen it, and it's slightly hidden here, but if we really think about the processes themselves, so not the improvement process, but the actual factory, this is what we do, right? So this is just doing the actual operation. Here, on the bottom side of each of those cycles, we have activities that are very much linked to checking or studying what the results are, or what we are doing. And like this, the activities on each of these cycles of excellence are sort of distributed. Here we have the checking or the studying things. On these sides, on the left sides of the cycles, we have the real changes to how we want to change our processes, how we want to change our standards, so the acting or the adjusting. And on top, you see those parts of the cycles of excellence that are planning, specifically putting into place how we are going to run our business. So don't get me wrong, if you do an improvement team, right, an improvement project, generally this whole part would be called the planning, where you plan what you're going to do. That is all true, but I never found that a very useful way of looking at it, because honestly, you go through the PDCA a couple of times, even within one improvement project, but thinking about the master framework, and that is what it's all about. In the end, we do our operation in a certain way. Anyway, that is the cycles of excellence that I will be sharing more about in the coming months, probably years, that I also invite you to comment on. Is this a system that fits better with how you can sort of integrate, manage operational excellence, continuous improvement, lean activities, Six Sigma TPM with the daily running of your operation? Or maybe it doesn't jive with you at all. Let me know. Really interesting part for me, because I use this with companies. Now, I already know that some companies love it. I have not heard yet of companies that really hate it. So if that is you, let me learn as well. I want to continuously improve my own understanding of what is happening out there in industrial organizations around the world. For now, I leave you with this introduction of the cycles of excellence, the way to manage operational excellence within your organization. A reminder that if you want to form your management of operational excellence within your organization, maybe some help on a global level, some help in a factory to really get it running, deploy it into the organization, not just do a couple of Six Sigma projects, but really make sure that you have a system that builds upon itself. That is the work I do. And please, please do contact me if you think that it might be a good cooperation between the two of us, where I can help you with this in your organization. For now, I wish you the best of luck with your operational excellence culture. And as always, don't forget to also enjoy the continuous improvement journey.